So, your second question is in your article, you comment on Ishiba's rise to power. You note that he was the leading rival of the late Prime Minister Shinzo Abe and that its political star will likely soon fall. Would you please comment on this and how this could impact Southeast Asia?
Yes, Shinzo Abe, the late Japanese Prime Minister, whom I worked very closely with, uh, his term, his term was one of the actually longest. It lasted more than 7 years and 7 years and 8 months, and he had a previous term in office, which lasted for 1 year. So a total of 8 years and 8 months. Believe me, this is actually the longest record ever recorded by any Japanese prime minister since Japan adopted the system of modern politics back in the late 19th century. 19th century. So during that time, Mr. Ishiba, the new prime minister, was very much in the backbench, on the backbench, and he oftentimes criticized from Abe's back. And I witnessed those what Ishiba did against towards Abe many times. As the saying goes, in the parliamentary system, your political uh, opponent may be in front of you across the aisle, but your real enemies are on your back. And that's what's happened since Shinzo Abe took office. And Shigeru Ishiba always criticized all kinds of policies that Shinzo Abe was after. So I detected a sense of grudge developed by Ishiba and between these two individuals. Now, he has tried to win the race to become the president first of the party and then get elected by the parliament as prime minister as many as 5 times. So he made a pronouncement before running that this election was going to be the last one in his political career. And then you could say for the last attempt, he succeeded. Now, he has said a number of sloppy things. By sloppy, what does it mean? I'm going to tell you what. He has proposed, number one, tax hike. I was very much surprised by his policy agendas, especially because he says that he's going to call general elections earlier than many thought. Uh, is it true that Shigeru Ishiba, the new prime minister, is going to push this policy hike agendas, and then he's thinking that he could win the vote? Very few, if any, uh, prime ministers or very few leaders of the political party have won by proposing raising taxes, plural, not singular, because he has proposed that he is going to raise personal, individual income tax, and then he is going to raise corporate tax. In addition, he said he would be interested in raising tax for capital gains. That's devastating. Reflecting that, the first trading day of this week, Monday, the stock index nosedived, fearful of Shigeru Ishiba's policy agendas. So that was point number one. And point number two is about national security or Japanese diplomacy. He has proposed establishing Asian version of NATO. What would you say to this proposal? Are the Japanese interested in bringing America further into the security situations in the Indo-Pacific, just as the United States has played the most significant role transatlantic? So, without consulting very much heavily with the US counterpart, you could not possibly propose anything like this because, after all, the United States is the most important, is the most powerful, is the most battle ready, if you like, provider of force, both to the Atlantic region and to the Indo Pacific region. Wait a second. That has been in place for many, many decades. Indeed, the United States led the coalition and won the war in Korean Peninsula and got engaged in terrible battle and bloody warfare in the Indochina to primarily safeguard the rules-based international order that in turn benefited Japan first and foremost. Why? Because in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, this country, Japan, was the only industrialized democracy where when all others, including South Korea, were extremely poor and under dictatorship. So, what's going to change even with this new arrangement of Asia's version of NATO? I don't think very little will change. The current situation for your viewers is that Japan has been hosting the biggest number of U.S. military personnel and the most substantial military assets, naval and Air Force and Marines on the soil of Japan. By so doing, the United States is able to keep its forward deployed forces uh, in this troubled region, neighborhood of the Indo-Pacific. And the Japanese taxpayers have been very much willing to support and cover the cost of the deployment. And indeed, it's much less expensive, if you like, to put U.S. military assets and personnel in Japan rather than putting them on the soil of the state of California, if you like, in the United States. So that's the arrangement that's been tested by history and that's been in place for decades. So, what more net benefit, net gain the United States could expect from building this Asia's version of NATO is extremely doubtful, is an open-ended question. So that was the second question that came to my mind. Thirdly, uh, he has not earned reputation, if I may say frankly, as a leader that could lead complex organizations. Some say he is very much slow in making decisions. He dodges difficult questions and he dodges ultimate responsibility that otherwise should have been taken by the leader, i.e., Mr. Ishiba. Uh, and so he is not the sort of leader that's shown its leadership timber, if you like. All that being said, one should and could hope that he is a quick learner and he knows what to be done, what not to be done, especially when faced with imminent challenge of general elections. He has to be more balanced, and he has to strike a very good balance when presenting his policy agendas. But so far, those 3 points, three factors that I mentioned, have worried me very much. Once again, whether he is a quick learner or not is something that I would very much like to pay attention to.
Well, that sounds like some very valuable information for those of us who do observe world politics very closely.